All right, so you're thinking about moving to Lee Summit, Missouri. Well, hey, in this video, we are gonna talk about the pros and some cons to living in Lee Summit. And if you stick around to the end, we're gonna give you our biggest con of all that you need to know before thinking about moving to Lee Summit. My name is Zach Morton. My business partner Max Jones. The team and I have been helping people move in and to Kansas City for over 20 years. We absolutely love it, but you don't have to take our word for it. See what our clients have to say with over 600 five-star Google reviews from people just like you. So whether you're moving 3 days, 3 months, 3 years, pick up the phone, give us a call, shoot us a text, email, Zoom, whatever, so we can kind of help you come up with a plan for a smooth transition into the Kansas City market. All of our information is in that description below, so take a look. So as I mentioned, we are talking about Lee Summit, and to keep everything on a positive note, let's start with the pros, shall we? The first thing that I like to talk about, and I think people with families are always concerned with, is schools, right? We're moving into a new town, what are the schools like? At least that's what we hear from a lot of the moms. So the schools in Lee Summit are A+. Let's just get that out of the way right off the top. There are 3 high schools, 4 middle schools, and I think 18 elementary schools that service the Lee Summit School District. Now, as you see on the map here, we've got Lee Summit is a pretty good size here. It's 65 square miles. The school district actually kind of bumps out to the right a little bit. So sometimes when we talk about these cities, whether it's this city or other cities, you've got Lee Summit the town, and then you've got Lee Summit the school district. So you can go a little bit east and still fall within that school district. But A+ schools across the board, but with that, usually you have A+ schools because you're getting a little more on property tax, you don't cost a little more, the houses are a little more expensive, and that's kind of what we see here. It's not over the top expensive, but it's towards the kind of the 90th percentile. And there's a graph that I'll put up that shows the cost of living of all the little cities in Kansas City, and Lee Summit's kind of in that 90th percentile. It's not over the top, it's not the most expensive place, but it is kind of, if I was giving it a grade, it'd be kind of the A-. Where Lake Lotawana, which is also right here near Lee Summit in the school district, is actually one of the most expensive places, cost of living there that you can live in the whole Kansas City metro area. So, but a lot of nice houses right on the water. You can have big boats, mega mansions, all that kind of stuff. So it's one of those places where you got to be ready to keep up with the Joneses, if you know what I mean.
You want a lot of water.
Yeah, it's a fun to say. As you, a lot of these towns and lakes around the Kansas City metro area are all Native American names. So I believe, I don't know what Lake Lotawana means, but it means something Native American.
Yeah, the lakes are one of the biggest pros about Lee
Yeah.
Summit. I mean, if you look at the map, it's incredible.
Yeah, that's really one of my. I'm a lake guy. We're actually sitting at a house right now on a lake, so I love lakes. But in the north part of town, right here, we have Lake Woods, it's a planned lake community development, which is awesome. If you go check out our vlog, we've done a neighborhood vlog. We show you some houses in Lakewood and kind of take you through the neighborhood. So definitely check that out for Lee Summit vlog. But you can live on the lake, have the lake right in your backyard first tier. There's also a golf course that connects to this lake, so you don't even have to leave the neighborhood to golf. There's a couple restaurants, there's parks, there's volleyball, there's soccer fields, baseball fields. I mean, they've really got it all. So it's one of my favorite spots kind of on the north side of Lee Summit. So if you're a lake person, that's one of the lakes you can live on. There's also 2 others that you can live on. Most of these lakes that you're going to live on are going to be low horsepower, so you're not going to be out. You're out there having a good time with your family. The boat's not going to be getting rocked around with huge waves from the one crazy guy that's out there doing donuts all day. So you don't have to worry about it. So it makes it super nice. You've got marinas, but there are also some public lakes. Longview right now that Max has pulled up at the map. That's one of those lakes where you can have your big ski boat, you can have your wave runners. I've got a lot of friends that have boats out there that are into wakeboarding, and now everybody's kind of switching to wake surfing and foil surfing, so it's a great lake for that. You can't live on it, so it's not a lot of traffic and docks you have to worry about. It's get out there and have a good time. And then on the south end, there's lakes, and then on the north end too. So we're really surrounded by lakes. Yep, that's another one we can live on down in the south. And then Lake Winnebago as well. So lots of great lakes, lots of things to do. So we'll save that con for the end, but because of the weather around here, it gets pretty warm. It's nice to have a lake during the summertime to get in and cool off.
And while we're on the topic of lakes, the thing I think that's best about Lee Summit, it being on where it is on this side of town, is a lot of people in Kansas City have a home at the Lake of the Ozarks, which is, if you look at the map here, right down, let me grab the pin tool, right down here, starting in Warsaw and goes all the way down here to the Lake of the Ozarks. So if that's your thing, heading out of town for the weekend and going to the lake, living in Lee Summit gives you about a 45-minute jump start on everybody else, and you're not fighting through rush hour traffic to go through Kansas City. So, you know, you could live on a lake, a smaller lake in Lee Summit, and then for the weekend, head with your boat down to the big lake, down to the Lake of the Ozarks.
Yeah, and you've got a head start on the whole city. 45 minutes head start from where I'm living. So yeah, that's great about that location. And while you're talking about the Ozarks, Lee Summit's kind of claim to fame here recently is in the show The Ozarks on Netflix. In their 3rd season, they actually mention Lee Summit. Yeah, it's just kind of interesting. And then also in one of the Star Trek episodes, I don't know which one that is, but they mentioned Lee Summit too. So I don't know what Lee Summit has to do with Star Trek. It's a fact.
Hey. And facts are what we're after.
Yeah, we're all about the facts, right? All right, so let's see. I think we've talked enough about the lakes. Anything we want to add there? I don't think so. The next is growth. So Lee Summit, since 2020, the last few years, has seen almost 10%, 9.5% growth. So there's a lot of people moving to Lee Summit, and I think the reason for that is there's still a lot of space left in Lee Summit. We said Lee Summit is 65 square miles. The population's about 100,000, so a lot less than some of the other cities, almost half of Overland Park, which is just its cousin to the west over on the Kansas side. But there's still a lot of room and a lot of space to grow in Lee Summit. We've got the top end, which has the Lakewood, which I kind of told you about, north end. That's going to put you close to I-70, which is a great access across in and out of the city, east and west through Missouri. And then as you go south on 470, we've kind of got this dead zone, kind of Kansas City. A lot of the areas have this sprawl where there's kind of a dead zone where it's either commercial properties or just raw land. And you kind of see that on 470. Then you get south down to 291, and it's a highway with some stoplights on it, but that's when the neighborhoods start to pick up again. Like I say, if you check out our vlog tour, we go through a couple neighborhoods in that area too, but that's gonna get you all your Whole Foods, your grocery stores, kind of some of your big box stores, all that. That's just right there in the neighborhood, so conveniently located, but still lots of room to grow towards the south in Lee Summit and to grow towards the east. So that's why we're seeing a lot of that. And with the A+ schools that are also boasting lower tax rates, so that we talk about different sales tax in a lot of these areas, and the sales tax for Lee Summit is 7.9%. So
that's pretty reasonable,
yeah,
really.
A lot lower than some of the taxes on the Kansas side for as far as sales tax goes. And then in Missouri, when you are on the Missouri side, you do have to worry about this thing called the E-tax, which stands for earnings tax. And that's if you live in Kansas City, Missouri, or work in Kansas City, Missouri, that they're gonna try to get you for 1% of your income. And that E-tax does go to improve the roads. It pays for the fire and police protection and trash for the city. But if you live there or work there, you're gonna have to pay that. Lee Summit, living in Lee Summit gets you out of that, and working in Lee Summit gets you out of that. So another good thing about living on the Lee Summit side. We touched a little bit on property, but let me get into the property values. The cost over the last 12 months, the median price point in Lee Summit was $370,000, with the average sales price coming in right at $400,000. Of course, the last couple of years have been, for everybody in the real estate world, we've seen a lot of appreciation because it wasn't like that a few years ago, but the whole city as a whole has seen a lot of growth in that department. And that's what those numbers are over the last 12 months. And then my last pro that I want to talk about for Lee Summit is the outdoor activities. That's, I think Max and I are both like our outdoor activities, and Lee Summit is chocked full of them. Starting right from the center, there's a sweet little downtown Main Street area. Actually, it's called 3rd Street, not Main Street. But you've got a section of probably 20 to 28 blocks that is full of like barbecue, restaurants, bars. The last time I was over in that part of town, I did a search for live music. There was 12 venues that say they have live music, so you can get out in the streets, walk around, have a great time. Lots of food, lots of restaurants, dining options. 3rd Street Social's there. It's kind of the famous spot that everybody likes to go to. And if you check out our blog, I was there on a Saturday at 2 o'clock, and the smells coming off of 3rd Street, all the restaurants, oh man, it was killing me. So I'm still talking about it to this day. So you've got that. You've also got parks. We've got golf courses. If you like to take the kids to the water park, there's Summit Waves, which has a 3-story water slide with a lazy river and pools and splash parks and all that. So we've got a couple options for that. Trampoline parks. There's walking trails. We've got the Rock Island Trail, which is a really cool trail that they're continuing to build on. That runs you right through Lee Summit and takes you all the way to the stadiums, the Royals and the Chiefs Stadium. So you can actually walk to go catch a game if you like.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. A lot of people that are affiliated with the Chiefs or Royals or work for them, they choose to live in Lee Summit because the proximity to those stadiums is awesome. So whether you're a fan or or employed by the Chiefs or Royals, then it's a great place to be.
Yeah, because it's just I-70. You're at the north end of Lee Summit. You hop on I-70. Shoot a few miles west and you're right there. The stadiums are right off I-70, so yeah, great point. Let's see, golf courses, we touched on all that fun stuff. Got the lake stuff. There is, one of the coolest things that I think this place is James A. Reed, the conservation area. That's on the east side of Lee Summit. It's over 3,000 acres of conservation land that they've got set up with over 12 ponds and lakes. So you can go out there, fish, they've got them all stocked. You can catch largemouth bass, crappie, bluegill, catfish, what else? Oh, and a couple of them in the wintertime, they'll stock them with trout, so you can get the fly rod out and catch some rainbows. There's walking trails that'll meander through all those lakes and ponds. And there's even a hunting area, there's a shooting range, an archery range, so just all kinds of outdoor activities. You can spend a lot of time out there. It's a great spot.
Greenwood is an area that buffets Lee Summit, and that's a really growing, happening area too. If you want to get a little bit outside of, still within the Lee Summit School District, but a little bit outside of the hustle bustle of Lee Summit, Greenwood is an up and coming area.
Yep. All right, outdoor activities. So the cons, let's get into the cons, the stuff you need to know before you get to Lee Summit and find yourself there. And I think for me, one of my first cons is the sprawl. As I told you, there's some population around Lakewood in the north, and then you've got to just chug down a highway to get to some more population. There's shopping in between that's kind of nice and convenient for both sides, but as you feel, the population there is about half of some of the other cities that we cover with the same footprint, so it's just a little more elbow road. You got to drive a little bit further. Some people like that if you're kind of looking for that small town feel. I kind of get that feel in Lee Summit. It's definitely going to keep growing. The numbers are showing us that, but currently there's areas you can get that kind of have that. It's a little bit quieter, a little less going on, which I guess that could be a pro too, kind of depending on what your goals are. But that's just something I notice when I'm there. It just feels a little spread out and a little sprawly, and it just takes a little time. It doesn't take much more time, I guess. You're driving a further distance to get to those places. So.
Yeah, if you're trying to go from the north side of Lee Summit to the south side, it's kind of a jaunt. It's a big area that's spread out with not really the best, the biggest highway, 470 runs through it, and I-70 is clear at the north side. So, to get on the south side down by Greenwood, there's not a lot of great options, highway options for that.
Yeah. So that's con number one. Con number two is the distance to airport. So if you travel once or twice a week or whatever for work, the last Google search I did on directions, it's looking about 45 minutes, just depending on traffic from Lee Summit, the heart of Lee Summit to the airport. It could be a little faster just depending on traffic. Maybe it takes a little longer, but it's one of the probably the furthest major suburb that is the furthest from the airport. So definitely take that into consideration.
Yeah, and when you got to go right through downtown. I mean, you could take 435 and go around the downtown that goes to the airport, but no matter how you look at it, I mean, it's a haul to get from Lee Summit to the airport. So if you're coming home late at night, at the end of your work week for traveling and you got to tack on another hour drive to get home, that could be not the ideal place if you travel a ton for work.
Yeah, so something to keep in mind there. And then my third and final con is just the weather. It can be a pro too, but I like to touch on this because whether you're coming from East Coast, West Coast, from Texas or Chicago, the weather in the Midwest, a lot of people don't know what to expect when they get here. So we get all 4 seasons and we get them fully. Our summers are super hot and humid. Some people that move here from the West are like, they think they know what humidity is, and then they get here and they're like, geez,
yeah,
it gets humid.
They say, when you're in the desert, well, at least it's a dry heat. Well, that's not the case here in Kansas City. It's a swamp heat, and it can be brutal at times.
Yeah.
But usually it's for like a week or 2 at a time. It's not it's not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, so that's kind of the worst part of it is a couple weeks, and then for the most part our summers are in the 90s, and all the cars have great air conditioning, all the stores have great air conditioning, the movie theaters, houses, so it's really not an issue. You just don't spend a lot of time jogging outdoors and walking outdoors for a couple weeks. We spend that time at the lakes and at the pools, so a couple weeks when the pools are full. And then, so that's the flip-flop of that is our winter, kind of the same way. For the most part, our winter is pretty mild. We do have a couple weeks where it can get below 0, kind of have that Arctic blast that comes down, and it's super cold, but on average, most of the time it can get up to the 40s during the day, and then it's freezing at night. And that's kind of a typical winter. It's a little gray around here with, in the wintertime because the sun's a little lower, and that's typically winter. Spring and fall are great. Spring, great weather, a little unpredictable. It can, it rains in the spring. We get some amazing thunderstorms, so depending on where you're coming from, you may not experience any of that. Thunderstorms are amazing. We also have tornadoes that you have to watch out for.
Yeah, those are not only in Kansas, folks. I know with the Wizard of Oz, you think of Kansas and say, well, I'll just go to the Missouri side. Well, we get them there too.
Don't carry that. They cross the border without any problem. So.
Yeah.
Something to worry about. Everybody, we've got a great siren system and notification system. Everybody's phone you'll be sitting in a room and all these alerts will go off on everybody's phone, say that, tornado warning. And then even there's sirens, and every county has a handful of sirens. So if you don't have a phone or had no technology, you can hear these things start chiming in. And hey, I better pick up my phone, see what's going on. And then at that point, you just get into a basement, get into a low-lying area, let it ride over. And I don't personally know anybody that's ever been hurt by it. I've known people that had property damage, but property damage, I guess shingles and stuff getting torn off are probably more of a realistic occurrence than death, but it does happen. So
yeah, that's why we all have basements in Kansas City. Not only in Lee Summit, but the Kansas City Metro. You might find a house on a slab, but it's pretty rare. Most, I'd say 90% of homes have a basement that is either finished or unfinished. And I don't know. I mean, I think the tornadoes are more for the news and less reality. My wife's scared of them, but I've never even, I don't know anybody that's gotten in one, or, I knock on wood.
Yeah, same here. I totally agree with you. So and even if you don't have a basement, usually the neighbor does. So they'll, as long as you're friends with the neighbor that has a basement, you should be in good shape. Just stay out of the trailer parks. That's my recommendation.
Yeah, they always seem to hit trailer parks.
Yeah, not the best place to be in a tornado, in a house that's above the ground and just kind of in the air waiting for it. Anyway. So that's pretty much it. The pros and in summary, I think Lee Summit's a great spot. If I was looking to move somewhere on the south side, looking for great schools, great tax rate, great value, just a lot of things going for it for the money, I think it's a great spot. And that's our take on Lee Summit. I'd love to know if you have any, fill up the comments with questions. If you live in Lee Summit, if you're from Lee Summit, think we missed something, put it down there. We'd love to hear what you have to say. Appreciate you guys watching this. If you found it useful, please give it a like. It helps other people find this. And really, we just want to be a resource. So If there's anything we can do to help you guys out, please reach out to us. All our information's below, and we'll help you with that smooth transition into the Kansas City market.
All right. Thanks, guys.